The WWE Universe is in mourning tonight, and not because of a storyline, a heel turn, or an unexpected title loss. No, this time it's something deeper. More final. More irreversible. Something that has left fans across the globe sitting in stunned silence, glued to their screens, unable to process the words that just came out of WWE CEO Triple H's mouth. It happened during the final moments of Smackdown. The lights dimmed. The commentary team fell silent. And out walked the game, not with his usual energy, not with the bravado fans had come to expect from the cerebral assassin. He didn't come to hype a match, debut a new superstar, or announce a new pay-per-view. He came to deliver what may go down as the most devastating message of his corporate career. He walked down that ramp, microphone in hand, his face stone cold and eyes slightly red, as if he had been holding something back for far too long. Once inside the ring, with a single spotlight casting shadows behind him, he paused. The arena, packed with fans who expected fireworks, instead fell to a haunting stillness. Then, with no music, no pyrotechnics, no pageantry, Triple H said the words that no one wanted to hear, but everyone feared might be true: Roman Reigns is not coming back. There was no spin. No storyline embellishment. No swerve. Just a single sentence that detonated across social media like a bomb. It was not followed by a farewell video package. There were no highlights of Roman's greatest moments. Just Triple H standing in silence, as if even he couldn't quite believe what he was saying. For years, Roman Reigns has been the axis on which the WWE revolved. The tribal chief. The head of the table. The longest-reigning world champion in modern history. But now, according to the man who runs WWE, he's gone, and just like that, a wave of disbelief swept across the WWE Universe. Fans looked to one another in the crowd, hoping someone would shout that it was a work. That it was all part of some elaborate Bloodline storyline twist. But that moment never came. Instead, backstage footage began surfacing within minutes. Wrestlers standing in shock. Paul Heyman with his face buried in his hands. Jey Uso pacing like a man with no map. Solo Sikoa standing by himself, staring into nothing. And Seth Rollins, walking out of the arena without saying a word. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. This wasn't like the last time Roman disappeared from television. That time, there were whispers of time off, maybe an injury. Maybe creative burnout. The storyline at the time was flexible, Roman was being protected. But this felt absolute. Final. And fans were left asking the question echoing across every forum, podcast, and Reddit thread tonight: what happened to Roman Reigns? To understand the magnitude of this announcement, you have to go back to the beginning of his disappearance. It started quietly after WrestleMania. Roman walked out of the biggest show of the year still champion but different. Detached. Absent from Raw. Sporadic appearances on SmackDown. No explanation given. Then came the rumors. First, that Roman had been injured. Then that he had taken time off to be with family. Then darker whispers emerged, of disagreements with WWE creative, friction with top-level executives, and mental health concerns. None of it confirmed. All of it concerning. At first, the WWE Universe accepted the mystery. After all, Roman had earned time off. He had carried the company through the pandemic era, rebuilt the Bloodline into the most compelling faction in a decade, and anchored a generation of main events. If anyone deserved a break, it was him. But as the weeks dragged into months, silence became sinister. Then came the leaked memo. Buried in the chaos of a busy Monday Night Raw 2 weeks ago, a Reddit user claiming to work for an arena production crew posted a screenshot of an internal communication from WWE corporate. It was short, but the last line set fire to the fandom: all long-term creative involving Roman Reigns is hereby paused indefinitely until further notice. Until further notice. 3 words that broke more hearts than a heel turn ever could. Still, WWE said nothing. No denials. No confirmation. Just silence. And now we know why, because it wasn't just creative being paused, it was Roman himself. Gone. Absent. Not injured. Not resting. But, in the words of TripleH himself, not coming back. So now the questions come flooding in like a storm. What really happened to Roman Reigns? There are several theories, none of them comforting. The first, and perhaps most painful to believe, is health-related. Roman Reigns has a well-documented history with leukemia, a battle he fought publicly in 2018 and again in 2020. When he returned stronger than ever, fans believed the worst was behind him. But what if it wasn't? What if Roman's health had taken another quiet turn, and this time, he chose to keep it private? There has been no confirmation, of course, and WWE has not released any medical statement. But the idea lingers, fed by his increasing absences, the change in his physical appearance during his last few televised segments, and his noticeably low energy in recent promos. Then there's the theory that something happened backstage. Conflict. A fallout. A deal broken. Insiders who spoke anonymously to wrestling media have hinted that Roman Reigns and WWE leadership, particularly a faction within creative, have not been seeing eye to eye for several months. According to one report, Roman was unhappy with the direction the Bloodline was headed after WrestleMania. He had built something powerful, emotionally resonant, even transcendent, and he didn't want to see it cheapened for short-term ratings or shock value. When the pitch came to break up the Bloodline too quickly, to turn Solo Sikoa into a heel leader and sideline Reigns, he allegedly pushed back hard. Some insiders believe that disagreement escalated to a near walkout. And perhaps, the walkout became real. But there's also the matter of Roman's contract. A multi-year mega deal inked in early 2022 reportedly gave Roman limited appearances, creative influence, and a highly protected on-screen image. But rumors suggest that deal may have expired quietly, or been renegotiated, and that Roman and WWE could not agree on terms going forward. Could it be that Roman wanted more time off, more money, or more control over his character, and WWE, now eyeing new global expansion under endeavor, couldn't accommodate those terms? There is even speculation that Roman was offered an exit plan. One that would preserve his legacy and keep the door open for a future return, but not anytime soon. And then there's the third theory. One whispered more quietly, more nervously, that Roman Reigns didn't walk away, he was pushed, that this wasn't a decision he made, but one WWE made for him. A silent ousting, cloaked in creative direction and wrapped in a carefully staged announcement from TripleH. Some point to the timing, how it conveniently clears the way for a new top heel to rise, for new champions to be crowned, for fresh merchandise to be pushed without Roman overshadowing everything. Some believe this was business. Cold. Strategic. Ruthless. Whatever the reason, the silence now feels deafening. And the reaction across WWE is unlike anything seen in recent history. Paul Heyman, the wise man who had been inseparable from Roman for nearly 4 years, has reportedly gone into isolation. Multiple sources say Heyman requested time off following the announcement. Jey Uso, who only weeks ago was seen as the next potential tribal chief, has remained publicly quiet, refusing all backstage interviews. Sami Zayn posted a cryptic message on X: "Some men carry an empire on their shoulders. When they fall, the empire shakes." Even Seth Rollins, Roman's former Shield brother and longtime rival, was caught backstage pacing alone after Smackdown, a rare sign of visible emotion from a man who prides himself on being unshakable. One staffer overheard Rollins mutter, "He was supposed to come back." And that's the part that hurts the most. Everyone thought he was coming back because Roman Reigns wasn't just another superstar. He was the cornerstone. The anchor. The heartbeat. Whether you loved him or booed him, you couldn't ignore him. He was the kind of figure who made everything else in WWE orbit around him. When he spoke, you listened. When he entered, the entire energy of the building changed. When he stood at the head of the table, it wasn't just a gimmick, it was gospel. But now, he's gone. And the table stands empty. What happens next? WWE, in typical fashion, has already begun the process of redirecting attention. New rivalries. New championship pursuits. Rumors of elevating Solo Sikoa as the next Bloodline leader are circulating fast. And there's even talk of Seth Rollins becoming the new face of WWE, though that mantle feels heavier than ever right now. But no matter how many new champions are crowned, no matter how many new factions rise and fall, the shadow of Roman Reigns will linger. Because legends don't vanish. They echo. Fans have taken to social media in mourning, but also in disbelief. Thousands of posts are flooding platforms with the hashtag #WhereIsRoman. Many are begging WWE for answers. Some are pleading with Roman himself to release a personal statement. Others are simply in denial, convinced this is all a storyline. A work designed to build anticipation for the most epic return in WWE history. But if this isn't a storyline, if this is real, then we are witnessing the quiet, unceremonious end of an era, and that, more than any betrayal, any twist, any backstage leak, is the most shocking thing of all. The tribal chief, who ruled for over 1,000 days, who led WWE through its most turbulent modern era, didn't go out with a championship loss, a WrestleMania send-off, or a Hall of Fame speech. He left through silence. A statement. A pause. A goodbye that wasn't spoken, only implied. And now, the WWE Universe waits. Not for a title match. Not for a return vignette. But for clarity. For truth. For one final message from the man who redefined dominance. Is this really the end, or is it just the beginning of a story we never saw coming? Stay tuned, because the world may have just watched Roman Reigns walk away, but the questions are only just beginning. The silence after Smackdown has grown into a storm. Wrestling news outlets scrambled overnight, flooding the airwaves with speculation and insider gossip, yet none could offer anything concrete. WWE's official site remains untouched. No banner headline, no farewell tribute, no formal article chronicling the departure of its most iconic modern figure. Roman Reigns, who once stood atop the wrestling world with a presence that demanded attention, has vanished from their front page like a ghost. The absence is louder than any tribute could ever be, but behind closed doors, the machine is still moving. Inside WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, sources describe a surreal atmosphere, tense, hushed, uncertain. The creative team, once obsessed with crafting the Bloodline's next twist, now reportedly meets under strict NDA-enforced protocols, forbidden from even mentioning Reigns' name in planning sessions. The command has come from the top: pivot all storylines. Rebuild the hierarchy. Do not expect Roman back. One anonymous writer described it simply as a funeral without a body. TripleH himself has refused follow-up interviews. Stephanie McMahon, who once championed Roman's push during her executive years, has gone silent on social media. And Nick Khan, the corporate strategist behind WWE's transformation into a global media conglomerate, has only offered one line in a recent investor call: the company is prepared for any shift in star power. Our brand is resilient. But this wasn't just any star, this was Roman Reigns, and the fans know it. Outside the arenas, signs have begun appearing in the crowds: Tribal Chief forever, where's Roman, this isn't over. TikToks of fans crying in disbelief have gone viral. Podcasts once focused on fantasy booking are now dissecting every moment of Roman's final promos, looking for clues, for meaning, for any indication that he knew this was coming. Some fans point to a specific moment. The last time Roman stood in the center of the ring, facing the crowd after a 6-man tag match, staring silently before walking to the back without raising his title. He knew, one fan posted. He knew and didn't say goodbye. And now the void he left is being felt everywhere. The Bloodline storyline, once the most captivating drama in all of wrestling, is unraveling. Solo Sikoa has stepped into the spotlight, but without Reigns, the aura feels off. He's brutal, cold, and vicious, but lacks the command. Paul Heyman, the master orator, seems lost without his tribal chief. Jey Uso, once the heart of the Bloodline, is rumored to be considering time off. There's no leader. No direction. No table. Only chaos. And maybe that was the point. What if Roman saw the chaos coming? What if his departure wasn't an escape, but a warning? in a stunning turn, a leaked internal communication has surfaced online, sent to upper-tier WWE talent mere days before Triple H's announcement. The message, marked confidential, outlines major restructuring plans for the SmackDown roster. But one line stands out above all others: all creative featuring the Bloodline will be restructured under new leadership immediately. No references to Roman Reigns are to be made on air unless cleared through legal. Legal: why would WWE legal need to vet storyline mentions of a character they still ostensibly own, unless the man behind the character, Lady Joseph Anoa'i, had just invoked legal protections of his own? Rumors have exploded in the wake of that sentence. Some claim Roman is preparing for a major transition, into film, into executive work, or even into retirement. Others say he may be tied into contract litigation, seeking to distance himself from WWE branding entirely. A few believe he's following in The Rock's footsteps, leaving the ring behind for the bright lights of Hollywood, with a long-rumored film deal already in place. But a growing faction online fears something more complicated, more personal: that Roman Reigns is dealing with something behind the scenes, something bigger than wrestling. One thread on Reddit with thousands of upvotes speculates on a possible medical issue, citing Roman's long absences, reported travel restrictions, and a recently cancelled overseas signing event. Another claims that Roman was spotted at a high-profile cancer treatment center in Los Angeles, unconfirmed, unverified, and emotionally devastating if true. Others speculate that the pressure of carrying WWE during its most unstable era finally took its toll. That the man who embodied power, control, and invincibility simply broke down, silently. It's the not knowing that hurts the most, because when Roman left in 2020 to fight leukemia, he told us. When he returned, he told us, but this time, he didn't say anything, and maybe that silence is what has fans the most unsettled, because Roman Reigns isn't just a wrestler. He became something else, something rare. A narrative force that transcended kayfabe, that blurred the lines between performance and authenticity. His Bloodline story wasn't just fiction, it felt real. It spoke to loyalty, betrayal, family, legacy. And now that story feels unfinished. Unresolved. Interrupted, fans are left asking the question that haunts every larger-than-life figure when they disappear without warning: was that the end? Or just the beginning of something we're not meant to understand yet? Paul Heyman, ever cryptic, may have offered the only clue. In a now-deleted tweet posted just an hour after Triple H's announcement, he wrote, "Sometimes the wise man disappears, because the king already knows the war is lost." And if that's true, what war was Roman fighting? Was it the internal battle between Vince's old regime and Triple H's new vision? Was it personal, a struggle between the man and the myth he became? Or was it simply time to lay down the crown? Time to walk away, not in defeat, but in control. The only way a tribal chief should. But for fans, there is no closure. No 10-bell salute. No farewell speech. No thank you, Roman chants with teary eyes and spotlights. Just a ring that feels emptier than ever. A title that means a little less without him. A roster trying to fill shoes that were never meant to be filled, and a CEO standing in the middle of SmackDown, saying 5 words that still don't feel real: he is not coming back. Maybe someday, Roman Reigns will return. Maybe not to reclaim a title, or rebuild a faction, but to remind us that power isn't just about dominance, it's about knowing when to walk away. Until then, we're left with the silence, the mystery, the empty throne, and a single, echoing truth: without Roman Reigns, WWE will never be the same. But not everyone is buying the silence. In fact, in the underbelly of the wrestling world, where die-hard fans turn into investigators, where dirt sheets blur with truth, and where conspiracy theories breed faster than factions, a new theory has taken hold. One that refuses to accept that Roman Reigns simply walked away. This theory doesn't blame injury. It doesn't blame contracts. It doesn't even blame burnout. It points a finger at betrayal. According to multiple unverified sources on wrestling forums, Roman Reigns' departure may have been triggered by someone within the company itself. A betrayal not on camera, but behind the curtain. One insider even claims Roman discovered he was being quietly replaced, not just in storyline, but as the spiritual centerpiece of WWE's global expansion strategy. The name being whispered? Seth Rollins. It's no secret WWE has been grooming Rollins to carry the torch. He's been protected, elevated, and positioned as the face of Monday Night Raw, front and center on press tours, in Netflix's WWE docuseries, and featured prominently in brand deals. But while publicly, Rollins and Reigns have maintained a respectful rivalry, the timing of Rollins' meteoric rise, juxtaposed with Roman's quiet exit, has raised eyebrows. The theory goes like this: Roman, upon learning about WWE's future direction, confronted key decision-makers, including TripleH and Nick Khan. There, he was told that for WWE to grow, Roman's limited appearances and increasingly selective scheduling no longer fit the mold. The company needed a new face. A full-time workhorse. Someone who could do the media rounds, the live events, the PR, the corporate dinners. Roman, reportedly, refused to be sidelined. Not after building the most compelling character of the past decade. Not after redefining what a heel champion could be. He had earned the right to choose when he stepped away, but maybe that choice was taken from him. Some believe the "he is not coming back" announcement was more than a statement, it was a power play. A way to sever the tribal chief character from WWE's current trajectory. To shut the door before Roman could walk back in. In that theory, Triple H's emotion on SmackDown wasn't sorrow, it was guilt. The guilt of a man forced to exile the very king he helped crown. And while that remains speculative, one detail has many talking. In the final seconds of Triple H's announcement, before the show faded to black, he whispered something under his breath. Barely audible. But captured by fans with enhanced audio. 3 words: he didn't agree. It's impossible to say what that meant. But fans are dissecting it like scholars analyzing a lost gospel. What didn't Roman agree to? A title drop? A creative pivot? A passing of the torch? Or was it something more personal, something that cut so deep that silence was the only answer? And amidst all the noise, all the confusion, one voice has remained completely absent: Roman Reigns himself. No tweets. No press releases. No interviews. Not a single Instagram story. The man who once ruled the WWE landscape with iron precision has gone completely dark. Some say he's retreating. Others believe he's preparing. A few think he's watching, waiting to see how WWE handles his absence. If the rumors are true and this is the result of betrayal, silence may be Roman's most powerful move yet, because when the tribal chief speaks again, the world will listen. But for now, WWE must face a different reality. A locker room without its alpha. A SmackDown without its headline attraction. A bloodline that has splintered into confusion. Solo Sikoa, now left to inherit a kingdom built by someone else's blood, stands in a lonely spotlight. The enforcer turned prince, now bearing the impossible burden of replacing a king. Insiders say Solo has been distant backstage, reportedly clashing with producers over character direction. Some say he doesn't want the mantle. Others claim he's been promised more than just a storyline push. He's been promised power, and yet, his rise has not been met with cheers, but with skepticism, because there's only one tribal chief. And it wasn't Solo. The cracks are showing. Attendance dips. Ratings fluctuate. Fans chant Roman's name in arenas he no longer walks through. The WWE Universe has not moved on. Not yet. Not completely, because this wasn't just a goodbye, this was a rupture, the kind that leaves scars. Paul Heyman, the man who once commanded the microphone with every ounce of Roman's gospel, has not been seen since the announcement. No social media. No backstage promos. Nothing. Some believe Heyman is simply grieving. Others believe he's stepping away because he doesn't agree with the decision either. There's even talk that Heyman may be considering retirement, his loyalty so deeply tied to Roman that without him, the story is over. But the most chilling rumor? That Heyman knew. That he had tried to warn WWE. That he begged them not to push Roman out. And when they did, he disappeared, too. Then there's Jey Uso, the right-hand man. The main event. The one who started it all. Sources close to Jey say he's been visibly emotional during rehearsals. That he's requested time off to process everything. On Raw, he looked distracted. His energy wasn't the same. Some say Jey is wrestling with more than just the loss of Roman, he's wrestling with the legacy they built together, and the question of whether to continue the story or let it rest. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins remains silent, and that silence is growing louder every day because the world is watching. Not just fans, but wrestlers, executives, rivals, allies. Everyone wants to know what happens now. Does WWE double down on its new direction? Crown a new tribal figurehead? Pretend the Roman era never happened? Or do they embrace the truth that no matter how many new champions rise, there will never be another Roman Reigns? And as the weeks pass without him, the narrative only deepens. The silence becomes mythology. The mystery becomes legacy. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, may be gone from WWE rings, but his shadow covers every storyline, every segment, every microphone drop. He didn't need a farewell. He became one. And maybe, just maybe, that was the plan all along. But if this really is the end, then it is the quietest revolution WWE has ever witnessed. And no bells. No banners. No pyro. No send-off, just the most dominant champion in recent memory, erased from the company's heartbeat without so much as a montage. It almost doesn't make sense. WWE is a machine built on legacy. And Roman Reigns is legacy. He didn't just carry the torch, he forged it in his image. The very foundation of SmackDown, the structure of premium live events, the merchandise strategy, the international TV deals, so much of it had Roman's face at the forefront. So how can a man like that disappear without a trace? Unless, that was the very thing he demanded. One theory gaining momentum in recent days suggests Roman's disappearance wasn't WWE's doing at all, but Roman's own. Not out of illness. Not because of a breach. But as a statement. As the final act in a carefully controlled career that was never about the crowd, but about control. Roman Reigns spent the last 4 years bending the WWE Universe to his will. He rejected babyface expectations. He tore apart the Shield narrative. He redefined what a champion could look and sound like. And now, according to some, he has done the one thing no other top star has ever managed to do in the prime of their career: disappear, without being defeated. He didn't lose the title in the ring. He didn't pass the torch. He didn't turn face for the fans. He just left, which raises the terrifying possibility that Roman's final power move was to leave WWE completely unprepared for life without him. Not as vengeance. Not as ego. But as message. That no matter how many champions you crown, how many belts you redesign, how many new factions you manufacture, there will only ever be one tribal chief. And he will only return when he decides the time is right. Until then, everyone is just playing catch-up in the empire he built. Yet that leaves a difficult question for TripleH and the company. How do you move forward when the very foundation of your storytelling crumbles overnight? So far, the response has been silence and improvisation. Creative reportedly met an emergency session just hours after SmackDown's conclusion. Ideas were thrown around to redirect the Bloodline into a completely new arc. Some pushed for Solo Sikoa to be crowned the new head of the table immediately. Others pushed back, fearing the audience would reject anyone wearing Roman's crown. There was even an idea floated that Seth Rollins would acknowledge Solo, uniting heel factions, but insiders say that idea was scrapped almost instantly. It felt hollow. Forced, because the truth is, no one can replace Roman Reigns. Not in the ring. Not in the locker room. Not in the eyes of a generation of fans who watched him go from the guy we're told to cheer to the man we cannot ignore. In his absence, WWE is now facing a reckoning it never expected. One executive, speaking anonymously, described the situation this way: "You don't realize how much Roman was holding up until he's gone. Storylines. Locker room morale. Ratings stability. He was the constant. Now everything's in flux. There's no leader. And worse, there's no explanation." But in all the chaos, in all the speculation, one truth seems to remain: Roman Reigns walked out the same way he reigned, on his own terms. It was never about the audience. Never about popularity. Never about being cheered, it was about power. Legacy. Respect, and he took all of it with him when he left, which begs the final question every fan is asking: is he truly never coming back? Or is this just the most brilliant work of all time, the greatest long con, the most daring performance in WWE history? Because if Roman were to return one day, not at a pay-per-view, not with weeks of teasers, but unannounced, out of nowhere, just imagine the eruption. The lights cut out. The arena falls into darkness. That first note of the Truth Reigns theme hits. The crowd doesn't cheer. They scream, but until then.